My name is Anna. I had dreamed about this vacation for so long, but it turned into a disaster. I saved money, made plans, and postponed the trip again and again. I imagined walking by the sea, drinking coffee with the view of the waves, and finally sleeping in peace. But suddenly, this vacation became the most frightening experience of my life. On the day I arrived, I was happy. The small old hotel by the sea looked cozy. White walls, wooden shutters, the smell of fresh sheets and warm wood. I thought, here I can finally rest. My room was simple but bright. A bed near the window, a knitstand, a wardrobe, and a big mirror in a heavy frame. It stood on the side wall, showing part of the bed and a piece of the sky outside. I smiled. It was perfect. I could see the sea even while lying down. In the evening I went for a walk on the promenade. The sunset painted the water orange and pink. I sat on a bench, listened to the sound of the waves, and believed that everything would be fine. For the first time in years, I felt free. But that night everything changed. I woke up with a strange feeling. It was as if someone was watching me. I lifted my head and froze. The mirror, which during the day stood against the wall, was now turned directly toward my bed. In the reflection I saw myself, messy hair, frightened eyes. I sat up and stared at it for a long time. I did not remember moving it. But I told myself it was nothing, just tiredness, a dream, imagination. I turned away and fell asleep again. In the morning the mirror was back against the wall. I even laughed at myself. How silly to be afraid of a piece of furniture, but the next night was worse. I woke up again. And again the mirror was turned toward me. This time I heard a quiet creak, like someone moving it in the dark. In the reflection I saw myself, pale with shaking hands. I did not sleep until sunrise. In the morning I went to the reception. I asked who could have moved the mirror. The young man at the desk looked surprised. He said the staff never touched guests' furniture. Maybe it only seems so, he added with a smile. But I knew it was not imagination. The mirror really changed its place. On the third night, I decided to test it. Before sleeping, I pushed my suitcase right against the mirror. If it moved again, I would know. At 3 in the morning, a heavy sound woke me. The suitcase lay on the floor, and the mirror was again turned directly at me. Now I was sure. Something terrible was happening in that room. After the third night, I could not think about the sea or rest anymore. Every minute in the room, I felt tension. The mirror became the center of my fear. I tried to calm myself. I said it was the wind, the floor shaking from neighbors, just an accident. But inside I knew something strange had entered my life. I decided to prove to myself that I was not losing my mind. Before sleep, I put my phone on the nightstand and turned on the camera. It was pointed right at the mirror. If it moved again, I would see it in the morning. I lay down, pulled the blanket up to my chin, and waited. Sleep came slowly, heavy and nervous. In the morning, I rushed to my phone. The video was saved. At first, everything was quiet. I was sleeping. The room was dark. At 2 in the morning, the door opened a little. A dark shadow entered the frame. It was only a silhouette, not clear. It walked to the mirror and slowly turned it toward the bed. Then it froze, as if looking at me through the reflection. It stood for minutes without moving. Then it disappeared back through the door. Cold shivers ran over my skin. I watched the video again, but then the file blinked and vanished. The phone showed an error. File damaged. I was left alone with no proof. I knew what I saw, but there was nothing to show. That evening I went again to the reception. My words stuck in my throat, my hands shaking. I said that someone came into my room at night. The administrator listened, but his eyes showed no belief. He said he would check the lock. 5 minutes later, he returned. Everything was fine. The door worked. I understood. No help would come. That night I did not sleep. I sat in the chair, looking at the mirror, waiting. At 3 o'clock it began to move. A tall black silhouette, still a stone. I turned around, nothing. But in the mirror he was there. I shouted, ran to the door, and escaped into the corridor. For the first time in my life I felt pure animal fear. I sat in the corridor, my back against the wall, afraid to return to my room. I wanted to run outside, to disappear into the night. But something held me. If I left now, the truth would stay hidden behind the wall. The corridor was long and empty. The lamps crackled. The old carpet swallowed every step. Slowly I walked toward the stairs. Then I saw something shine on the floor. It was a key. Old, heavy, scratched. On the metal there was white powder, like fresh plaster. I picked it up, and cold chills ran over my skin. I walked slowly through the corridor with the old key in my hand. My thoughts were racing. Who had dropped it? Why was there plaster dust on it? The silence of the hallway pressed on me. Too heavy, too complete, as if the walls were listening. Then I noticed her. A woman stood near one of the doors. She was maybe 50, with pale skin and tired eyes. Her robe was too big, hanging from her thin shoulders. Her hair was gray and messy, like she had just woken up. She stared at me with wide eyes, and for a moment I thought she would scream. Instead, she stepped closer and whispered, "Do you hear it too?" I froze. My throat was dry. "Hear what?" I asked, my voice shaking. "The mirror. At night. They move it. Always at night." Her lips trembled as she spoke, her hands twisting the fabric of her robe. She glanced over her shoulder, then down the corridor, as if afraid someone else was listening. The way her eyes darted around made my stomach tighten. Before I could say more, she quickly turned, opened her door, and slipped inside. The lock clicked, leaving me alone again in the silence. I stood frozen in the corridor. My heart was beating like a drum. It was not just me. Someone else knew. Someone else had seen or heard the same thing. But if she knew, why was she still here? Why didn't she leave? I took a step toward her door, wanting to knock. I needed answers. But my hand stopped halfway. A cold instinct told me not to. I listened. From behind her door came a faint sound, like soft whispering, but not a single voice. 2, maybe 3. And then silence again. I shivered. I realized I did not want to know who or what was in that room with her. Finally, I turned to my own door. With the old key still in my hand, I went inside. The room felt darker than before, the air heavy, as if the walls carried secrets I was never meant to hear. Now I was not just afraid. I was certain. Whatever was happening in this hotel was bigger than me, and I was no longer alone in it. The next day, I went down to the hall, trying to distract myself. In the corner hung a big oval mirror. I looked into it and froze. My reflection moved with a delay. I blinked, but in the mirror I was still staring with open eyes. And for one short moment, behind me, I saw a shadow. I turned around quickly. Nothing. Only me again in the mirror. But my heart was beating like I had been running. I almost decided to leave. But in the evening, I went back to my room. I pushed the suitcase to the door, checked the lock, and sat in the chair in front of the mirror. I told myself, I will not sleep tonight. At 3 o'clock, the mirror began to move, slowly, creaking, like someone was pushing it from the other side. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight. The light hit the edge of the frame, and in the crack something shined back, like an eye. I cried out and ran to the door. My hands shaking, I called the administrator, begging him to come at once. He came minutes later. His face was pale, but not surprised, as if he already knew. He tried to move the mirror but failed. Then he called the police. While we waited, I heard footsteps behind the wall. Slow, careful, then a breath, and 3 soft knocks like someone wanted to tease me. I pressed myself into the chair and prayed the officers would come faster. When the police entered, they saw the frame at once. They removed it, and under the paint was a small door. The hinges were new. With a crowbar they opened it. Behind was a narrow dark passage. The air smelled of dust and damp. Just a few steps in, a tiny hidden room. On the floor was a dirty mattress, bottles of water, piles of magazines. On a box lay photographs, dozens of them. Faces of hotel guests, sleeping, changing clothes, sitting on beds, all taken through mirrors. In the corner sat the night guard. His face was gray, his hands covered with dust, his sleeves marked with white plaster. He whispered over and over, I only watched. He did not fight when the police took him away. It was simple and terrifying. All those nights it was not a ghost. It was a man who hid behind my wall and watched me through the mirror. I packed my things and left the hotel in the morning. The sea, the sun, my long-awaited rest, all stayed behind. But the fear came with me. Now I am home. I covered my mirrors with cloth. But sometimes when I walk past, I feel my reflection stays for a moment too long. And I am no longer sure it belongs only to me.